Oh, good morning. Good morning, ISP. Welcome back to a beautiful Monday morning. It's May 18th, 2020, and this is your director, Dr. Arnie Bieber, coming to you from our home to your home. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you had a chance to get out and about during this beautiful weather we've been having. As I mentioned, I've been doing some running lately and getting better at it, feeling better for it. Some biking and walking and just enjoying the weekends when we have a chance to get out and enjoy the city. Today we have a special interview with our Director of Learning, Research and Development, Ms. Teresa Belisle. And we're going to have a chance to chat with her right now. I'm going to go on inside to my home office and talk with Ms. Belisle. So here we are with our Director of Learning, Research and Development, Ms. Teresa Belisle. Good morning, Teresa. How's it going?
Good morning, Arnie. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining.
Gorgeous. Love it.
So we're going to spend a few minutes chatting about learning at ISP. You have a very important job as the Director of Learning R&D. So maybe to start with, you can tell us a little bit about what your job is and what you do at ISP.
I do a lot of different things, but basically the heart of what I do is always trying to look at what learning are we doing and what learning might we be doing in the future. So always trying to look forward and say, how can we continue to evolve and improve the learning that happens at ISP?
And we've been working together for around 6 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're really lucky to have you.
I'm lucky to be here. It's a great place to be.
So speaking of learning, we have a particular challenge. The world of education has had a very particular challenge during these exceptional times. And I think we agree that ISP has done a good job in being agile and adjusting to the new normal that we've been coping with over the past few months. So I'm wondering if you can speak a bit about how the distance learning program works, what its purpose is, and how things are going so far.
Sure. As most people know, we did have a distance learning plan ready to go, and luckily we were able to learn a lot from all the Asian schools who had gone earlier than us, so that actually we could learn from their lessons. And I think that really helped us out in framing how we decided to go ahead with distance learning. And of course, our main objectives for distance learning is learning continuity, of course. Also a sense of safety and belonging. How do you keep that sense of belonging and that connectivity, which is such a strong part of being at ISP, is the community. And then thirdly, well-being. We know that it's challenging always being online, etc. So how do we physically and emotionally stay well during this time? And especially given the length of this sort of distance learning. But again, we had learned from from Asia, that we needed to think in those terms. So those were the three objectives that we set out.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, we've been doing this now for a few months, and the school had to react quickly. As you say, we had a plan in place, which really helped, as well as sister schools around the world who had to gear up sooner than we did, given that this emanated from Asia. How has it been going? What do you feel has worked well? What have we been learning? How have we been evolving the distance learning?
I think overall, for the majority of our constituents' perspectives, the vast majority, I think everybody says it went well. It's going well. It launched well. It wasn't easy at first, even though you have plans in place and we have great tech tools. We have a tech team that supports us. We have very highly capable teachers. Those first couple of weeks were tough on everybody, just making that sort of shift and never having experienced before. I think it was huge. But this is truly how you see it takes a village. It takes everybody to support in so many different ways to actually make that reality happen. And again, we were able to launch quickly and quite well, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback about it. I think the educators have done an incredible job dedicating hours, endless hours, to adapting, because they really do have to adapt. They know how to teach as a teacher. They came into teaching to teach in a classroom with human beings. They know what they need to teach. And yet suddenly I had to adapt it. And so that continues to be the change. How do I do this in a way that works in this context?
Mm-hmm.
And still trying to keep not only the learning continued, but also that sense of belonging and well-being. And
Mm-hmm.
again, once again, throughout this time, weekly, we get help and connect with colleagues from around the world, because many different contexts, right? Every context is unique, but science teachers can learn from other science teachers what they're doing. Principals can learn from other principals. So we're definitely connecting through a huge network around the world, both
Mm-hmm.
international and national schools. And I think there's so much more happening behind the scenes that people don't really recognize that happen and make it run as smoothly and as well as it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the one big challenge is how long this has lasted. And we knew this was going to hit as well once we realized this is going to be longer, because again, our colleagues in Asia, it is hard because most of us who've been working around the world as educators, you're prepared to do distance learning. Everybody has their plans. Usually it's from a couple days to a couple weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, either because of natural disasters or political turmoil. This is the first time in history that we've had to go so long for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's suddenly that original distance learning plan becomes something different. And so I think, so you go through that first phase, which was tough just to get up and running, then you kind of hit your groove for a while. And now I think we're at a phase where there's a lot of fatigue and just trying. What we need right now truly is tenacity and resilience. So it's that inner strength to continue in this way, in this setting, for all people, for students, for parents, for teachers. We're just at that phase in time.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, one of the important principles for us is not only the continuity of learning, but the well-being of the learners. And that has created some new challenges as well for students, as well as for parents, in the sense that there's an added burden for parents, especially when the kids are younger. And talk a bit about that, about the well-being of kids and families and what we're seeing and how we're trying to address some of that.
Well, again, I think there's so many layers and it's so different for every single family. Like you say, if you have an independent 14-year-old, like my daughter, it's not that much of a problem, although it is because it gets long. Maybe there's no socialization at a time of your life where it's never more important to socialize. Other people, if you have young children and you're having to work yourself online, how do you manage that? That's very, very challenging. So again, I think the well-being issues are different for different families and different individuals. We have students who have thrived in this setting. They actually find this works better for them than actually being at school, which is interesting. Others, it's very, very difficult. So it depends a lot on the individual, on the family, and on the context that they're living in right now. So I think luckily we have a lot of counselors who are really supporting our students with their well-being. We have advisors, homeroom teachers, and they've really tried to be tuned in and be as attentive to the needs of well-being and social well-being and emotional well-being as the learning continuity. So we're lucky we have a lot of people who are very expert in this as needed, as well as the core people who have the strongest, closest relationships with those students.
As you know, we are planning for a partial reopening on May 25th for the elementary school. And our commitment is, as you said, to maintain that continuity of learning, regardless as to whether students are at school or at home. Maybe you can speak a little bit about how that planning is going and how we're intending to maintain that continuity of learning for all learners, regardless as to whether they're home or at school.
And the whole organization that we're doing a lot of logistics work right now around that, but it's all based first and foremost on what's going to be the best for learning and connections. Our homeroom teachers know those students the best and the aides. So the homeroom teachers will continue with this distance learning, making sure we're getting those learning targets, making sure we're facilitating that learning, staying connected with that group of students, regardless of where the students are. And so that the students will have the same program, whether they're on site or at home. And then The rest of it right now really is a lot of logistics,
Right.
because we have to prepare for a certain number of groups who have separate bathrooms, who don't intermingle. And so that's a different type of well-being. It's the safety and hygiene, which is uppermost, obviously, now that we're in this situation and we have people coming in contact with each other.
Let me just say how much I appreciate your expertise, and you're looking at the big picture of learning at ISP at every level. Parents may not even be aware of the kind of work that you do and how important it is, because we are looking at coherence and continuity and consistency of learning, regardless if it's for a 3-year-old or for an 18-year-old. And it's your specific position that has that vantage point. So I just want to say thank you for all the great work you're doing, and especially during these challenging times.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be at ISP, and we're always connecting with new ideas, and we're willing to try the new and always go that next step. It's an exciting place to be.
And there's lots to be learned from this time, whether it's distance learning or even when we get back to face-to-face learning. I think you and I have talked about the fact that there's a lot to be learned, and that we are applying these things and will continue to learn from them and to innovate and to evolve our practice based on what we've learned right now.
I agree. It's an exciting time for education, and I think we're going to see a huge shift around the globe because of that.
So I wish you a very happy Monday, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Arnie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Belisle, for that illuminating conversation about learning at ISP, about the challenges and silver linings of distance learning. And speaking of learning, I'd like to wish all of our learners, all of our students, a great week of learning this week, engaging and enjoyable, I hope. As we do every Monday morning, here is a Playing for Change video. This week, it's called With My Own Two Hands. I can change the world with my own two hands. Make the world a better place with my own two hands. What a great message for all of us. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Change the world with my own two hands. Make a better place with my own two hands. Make a kinder place with my own two hands. With my own two hands. With my own two hands.
Qu'a changé mon langue avec deux mains moins. Fais un monde qui pis bon avec deux mains moins. Fais un monde qui pis douce avec deux mains moins. Avec deux mains moins. Avec deux mains moins.
Gonna make it a brighter place. Gonna make it a safer place. Gonna help human rights with my own two hands.
Je veux changer le monde,
Avec mes deux mains,
faire un monde meilleur,
avec mes deux mains,
faire un monde plus doux,
avec mes deux mains,
I'm gonna make it a greater place. I'm gonna make it a